Yeah, Kim, I have a question. Jim Klein, Peter with the Advocate. You've done this before at Baylor. You're having to blend players, holdover players, incoming players, and I'm just wondering how that's gone. Is it like you remembered when it happened at Baylor?
Well, this is the first official practice. I have been on the floor with them 6 times, 2 hours each time. I think it's too early to give a true assessment of my thoughts of returning players and new players, but I can tell you during those 6 practices that we had, I saw young people that wanted to do good. They wanted, to be, they wanted to impress me. They played hard, somewhat lost because it's a new thing for them. But that's okay. With repetition and time, you will get better in all areas. But I would say today probably will be exciting for them because it's open to the fans, and it's always open to the fans. But being the first official day, I can go longer than 2 hours. So maybe after 2 hours, they won't like me so much. But we're gonna work hard.
Do you have an idea of their conditioning performances in the interim while waiting for first day practice?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't get to work with them this summer as much as I would have liked because of the transitioning of hiring coaches, moving. It was just chaotic somewhat. So the strength and conditioning coach that I have inherited at LSU, Chris White, he's learning as well. He wants to do things the way I want them done. So it's kind of like you're teaching them the way you want things done, not necessarily technique and conditioning the way his craft is, but the way I want it moving and how fast and how I want things run. So they were here doing that, but again, they're not here to run track, lift weights, play football, or any of that. They're here to be basketball players, and I want them to be in the best shape possible, but they're not going to be in shape today, and I'm realistic and understand that.
Hey, Coach, this is Matt Trent with WBRZ Channel 2 here in Baton Rouge. I've got 2 questions. You kind of touched on them. Number one, what are your feelings about this? A new environment, a new place. Just does it feel any different than normal first practices in your career? And 2, you were talking about the players and new players coming in and out. How are they adapting to Kim Mulkey's coaching style, a new style?
Well, let's go back to your first part of your question. You have to remember, I've only done this one time in my life, so I can't compare it to other times. I have only had the very first practice one time, and that was 21 years ago. So comparing today, how it feels, I don't think is something that's really fair. But again, it's not anything that's uncomfortable. It's new. It's challenging. It's exciting, lots of adjectives that I could use, but I haven't done this very much. I haven't lived out of a suitcase very much in my life. You may have to ask the players themselves about my coaching style and things like that, but things that they have said in front of me to recruits is the intensity is different. The pace at which we move and play on the floor is different. I do remember them saying those 2 things, but I think, you'll have your opportunity to ask them what's different.
Hey, Coach, this is Tara with Tigers TV. I'm a sports reporter, and I just wanted to know, looking back at, the history of, LSU's women's program, the people that have came through, what do you say the future looks like now that you have taken over that position as head coach?
Well, it's funny you ask about the players that have come through here. We're going to have some in practice today, and those are players that go back to the Sue Gunter days. Those are players that recently finished. Some are WNBA players. And to have them, come to practice speaks volumes. I think that the history at LSU and women's basketball speaks for itself. Those 5 Final Fours were phenomenal. It was exciting during that era. We were, from a distance, a part of, understanding and appreciating what they were doing here because, we played them in 2005 in the semifinals of the Final Four. So Being from Louisiana, I'm always keeping up with the state, so I know the history here. I know the history of good women's basketball at LSU. I know the history of good players in the state of Louisiana. So it's exciting for me, but see, a lot of young people don't know that history. So when you recruit, you must sell those players, you must sell the history, you must sell the coaches that came before me, and we will do that. I think you heard that in my first press conference, is that our theme for the year will be respect the past and embrace the future.
Hey, Coach, Jacques from Channel 9. How you doing?
I'm good, Jock. How are you?
I'm good. Excited about some basketball. Talk to me. I had a couple quick questions for you. Number one, Kayla Pointer. She was kind of viewed as the leader on the team last year. How is she doing in this transition with the new head coach?
From my perspective, I think she's doing great. She's been great in recruiting when we've had recruits on campus. Obviously, because she is older and this is her COVID year, she can tell more about LSU probably than we can as a coaching staff. She is Nikki Fargas's niece, so she has a great love for the previous staff, but also embraces the new staff. She is an all-conference player, and she is a leader out there on the floor, but she's learning. It's a new system for her, but she will be one of our leaders, as will Foss and as will Cherry. So those three young ladies came back for their COVID year, and we expect them to have great years.
Coach, your schedule came out the other day, and you're playing a road game at the Raging Cajuns. I don't know if that's ever happened before here. Did you schedule that game, or was that previously scheduled?
That was previously scheduled.
Okay.
Hey, Kim, Scott Rapollet. I missed a very little first bit of what you had to say, so if I ask a question that you answered, I apologize. One, what have you been told, or what are you hoping for in terms of attendance this year at games? I assume that's still a very fluid situation. And two, can you talk to me more about the situation with Moon Urson deciding to transfer here than apparently going back in the portal?
Well, let's do Moon first. Moon is at Tulane, is my understanding. Moon, she, what a precious young lady. She didn't know if she really wanted to play anymore. She didn't know if she could put the time and the effort into it that it was going to take. As she told one of the coaches, she said, when we played our last game at Baylor, I figured that was it for me. And then we got our COVID year back. Coach, I was going back home to go to Tulane, and then you kind of muddied the water when you took the LSU job. And I came because I knew all of you, and I see and know what you have to do here. And I just don't know that I feel like, just really doing that. I don't know. So listen, she knows the work that we have to do that's ahead of us. As I told her, I just want her happy. And if being happy was, going to nursing school and go home and live at home and go to school at Tulane, she has my full support. So that's the story with Moon Urson. The first part of your question, I think, Scott, was about season tickets. I have not checked on that of late. I know that it's way over 4,000 that are sold already. I was told the courtside seats are all gone. There's 50-something of those. Those were sold quickly. So, my goal, I don't know that I'm being unrealistic. I think it's realistic. I want to sell 5,000 season tickets for this first season at LSU. Why is that important? It's important because it shows to recruits and it shows to people that we're hungry for our women's basketball program to do what it used to do. And we're going to sell season tickets even before we start winning. As I said, you got to be patient. 9 wins last year. You think I'm just going to wave a magic wand and double that number, you're unrealistic. We're going to play hard. We're going to be in games. Hopefully some of those close games they lost, we can win. But if we can sell season tickets today before we ever start winning, I think it sends a message to recruits and it sends a message to people that love LSU that this is going to be good times ahead of us.
Yes, TJ Polk here with Tiger TV as well. My question is, how what's your mindset when you're recruiting the recruits and the transfer athletes to the portal? What is your mindset? What do you look for in those athletes? And what is your recruiting pitch to them?
Well, my recruiting pitch to them is, this is LSU. The brand itself sells itself. Some of the recruiting pitch is what I have done in my career. Well, Coach, why did you come to LSU and leave a team that potentially could win the national championship? You talk to them, you get to know them. We had relationships with some of the recruits at Baylor that we've brought now to LSU. So as far as going into homes, you have to evaluate your talent. What are your needs? Do you need a post player? Do you need a three-point shooter? Do you need a point guard? Well, which class of kids comes out? We need the great player always. Then you recruit the state of Louisiana. Then you recruit regionally. So I'm giving you in a short period of time the summation of everything that goes through our minds in recruiting. And we will work hard to recruit. We will obviously not get all recruits. We were at Baylor and didn't get all the recruits, but it won't be from lack of work.
Kim, hi, Christy Thomas Cuddy from ESPN. You said you've only been on the court 6 times with your kids. We know how you played at Baylor. Based on those 6 times, what do you hope we see when you tip off in November?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to compare the team that I left at Baylor or even the teams the latter part of my career at Baylor. That's not fair. I could compare how it might have been when I first got to Baylor and how it is now at LSU. When I first got to Baylor, the previous team had won 7 games. This time, the team had won 9. When I got to Baylor, they had really no Final Four history. They had no history. I think they played in the postseason NIT and lost to Penn State, so we couldn't sell that. At LSU, this program's been to 5 Final Fours and has had, you know, the great players of all time, Hall of Fame coaches. There is history to sell at LSU, and we're going to sell it. And how do you compare? You just go to work. You roll your sleeves up and you change a lot of things. And it's not just on the court. You got to get new offices. You got to get a new training room. You got to get a weight room in the PMAC. Eventually, we got to get our office. You're changing an entire, I don't like to use the word culture. I think that word's overused too much. What does it mean? What you've got to do is you've got to change the way the perception may be out there about your program, and you got to embrace the strengths, and then you got to kind of hide your weaknesses and then just build, get better players, get better facilities, get better managers, make sure your coaches are good. I mean, there's just everything that goes into turning a program back into a winning product.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Coach Mulkey, Mike Scarborough with TigerBait.com. When the SEC media makes their predictions of where you're to finish in the SEC next season, where would you like to be picked? Is there an advantage, or is there some spot where you would prefer to be?
Well, yeah, someday we all prefer to be at the top of it. But listen, the league is so good. I do believe this, and I believed it when I wasn't in the league. You finish in the upper half of the league, you're going to the NCAA tournament. And I don't think that any of us can be unrealistic and think that from 9 wins last year, you're just going to leap over people. It's too good a league, too many great players, too many great coaches. We just want to get better. And if every night people watch us play and they think we're giving the effort and we're getting better, we may upset somebody one day. We may be in a ball game we have no business competing in. Those are the parameters that I gauge, are we getting better? And I'm going to celebrate little things. I'm going to celebrate when we win 10 ball games, because that's one more than the team previously won. I'm going to celebrate when we win enough and we don't have a losing season. I'm going to celebrate when we beat that first-ranked opponent. You must celebrate those things, because what happens is as you build a program, those things tend to be taken for granted. I can go back to Baylor and think of all the things that we did in 21 years, and you had to keep feeding that monster. And so now we want to try to create that monster, and hopefully someday, if I can last long enough and my health is good and We get people in this PMAC that we can say, hey, let's go feed that monster again, but we've got a long way to go.
Is there a low number, though, that you would like to have that you can use as motivation? Or is there a number that so that way you can exceed expectations when you exceed it?
Well, yeah, I just told you 10 wins is pretty darn good.
Yep.
Now, listen, we have goals, and our goals are in their notebook. And in fact, when I leave you guys, I will go in that locker room and we will be reminded of those goals so that when we step on that floor today, this is why we're playing. And those goals will be realistic. They will not be unrealistic. Now, I know how fans are. Listen, everybody wants everything yesterday. And it doesn't work that way. It is a long process to get where you want to go. And it may not happen as quick as we'd like it. It may happen quicker than we thought. I don't know. I can't project that. All I know is I can go out there and coach those kids I've inherited, those kids that came with me, and let's see what we can do together.
Hey, Coach Katera again with Tiger TV. I know we have basically like a whole new roster, but how would you like describe your time that you say your 6 times being on the court with them? How would you describe like their chemistry, like with the returners and themselves, and like their chemistry with you as well?
I have no idea. I have no idea. That comes from many hours in the locker room together, many hours on the floor together, many hours in an airport, on a plane, in a bus, 6 hours on the court. It's not fair for me to say that. I know this, that from what I've seen, they've been receptive to everything I've thrown at them. You know, it's new, and I'll say it again, it's new, it's exciting, it's scary, but if they'll just work hard and understand this is a fast-paced sport. You don't have time to think about messing up because you have to stay up. It moves fast. So ask me that again in about a month or so, and I can give you a better answer.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay.
We good?
We're good, that's all.
Everybody good? Go Tigers.